Hi there, welcome to this video and I'm going to be explaining how to photograph Aurora. A few nights ago there was a really spectacular display of the Northern Lights. I didn't have time to get to a really spectacular location because I found out through seeing posts on Facebook that the display was happening, so I quickly grabbed the camera and went outside into the back garden to take some photographs of the Northern Lights. Now luckily I've done this kind of thing before, and so I didn't have to think very carefully about the settings. But you never know when these displays are going to happen, and unless you've got some kind of idea about how to set up your camera, you're not going to take the best shots. So in this video I'm going to tell you how to achieve that and help you to enjoy your photography. The first time that I saw Aurora was in Iceland, and unfortunately I had never photographed them before and I didn't get the most spectacular shots. They were certainly okay, but I could have done a better job. And so when I got back I did some research into how I should have done it, and part of that process was realizing that I needed a really good lens for taking those kind of photographs. So this is a 20mm prime lens that will open up to 1.8, a really wide aperture, and so that really does help when you're taking photographs of Aurora. It's not absolutely essential. You could use a lens that didn't open up quite as wide, but the wider you can get the aperture, the more light that you're going to let into the lens and the faster the shutter speeds are that you're going to achieve. And that's really important, because if you have to leave the shutter open for a really long time to get enough light in, then what's going to happen is you're going to get the stars that are behind the Aurora starting to smear, and you're going to start getting star trails, which is not great. So ideally you want to try and get your exposure times, or your shutter speed should I say, to about 2 to 3 seconds ideally. To get these shutter speeds of 2 to 3 seconds, as well as opening the aperture as wide as it will go, you'll also need to lift the ISO. Now you'll know how comfortable you are lifting the ISO on your camera, but I used an ISO of 1600 and that was adequate to get the shutter speeds I required. Now it does take a little bit of experimenting to get the correct shutter speed. I started off with about 5 seconds and I realised very quickly that this was too fast because I was getting too much light into the camera, so I changed the shutter speed down to about 2 to 3 seconds, depending on how well the display was showing, and this was absolutely fine. It might seem like an obvious thing to say, but your camera does need to be on a sturdy tripod because of the longer shutter speeds, and I would suggest using the camera's self-timer mode because that saves introducing any unnecessary vibration as you press the shutter button, and it just helps to keep the camera really still. Also think about the amount of wind that there is, because if there is a lot of wind that can buffet the camera as well. If you're serious about photographing Aurora, then I would suggest downloading an app. I've got one called Aurora Watch UK that sends me notifications if there's a possibility of auroras appearing, and that way you stand a much better chance of not missing them when they're in the sky. It's really important when auroras do appear to really give some consideration to the composition of your images, and that includes what's on the floor in front of you as well as what's going on in the sky, because if you put something in the foreground that is not very appealing, maybe a brick wall or a roof or something like that, then you're not going to actually get a very pleasing image. So really do think about getting a good foreground, as this is really going to help your final image. On the screen now is my favourite photograph from the evening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about why I think this works. I'm going to give you some tips about how I photograph this, and then I'm going to go into the computer and give you some tips about how I edited it. I think this photograph really works, mainly because of the striking display that I'm getting from the Aurora. The red and the green colours are just absolutely spectacular, and this was the absolute strong strongest that the display was. You could really see this with your naked eye. You didn't even need the camera to really show it off. Obviously you see more when you look through the camera than you do with your naked eye because of the extended shutter speed. So the display itself was absolutely spectacular, but I think the inclusion of the little chapel as a foreground interest is vital as well to getting this photograph looking really spectacular. Focusing was really important on this image. I wanted to get the chapel in sharp focus, so I zoomed in and used the screen on the back of the camera to really fine-tune the focus, and I used a point where the roof line meets the sky because there was a good strong silhouette, and I manually focused to get that as sharp as possible. Then what I did is I also used a head torch to light up the building because it was completely dark, and this then made the chapel stand out from the background without exposing too long and then losing the detail in the aurora. My exposure settings for this photograph were f2.8. There was a 1.6 second shutter speed with an ISO of 1600. Now some people might think, well, if I've got a 2.8 aperture, then I'm not going to get a lot of depth of field. But actually at this aperture, and I was about 10 meters away from the church, I do actually get a depth of field that is infinite if I focus on the church itself. I could actually go down to 1.8 and about 8 meters and still get an infinite depth of field if I focus on the church itself. On screen now you can see the image just here that I've edited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the neighbouring images that were taken seconds apart, and we're going to edit this again to the same kind of level. Now the first thing that you need to do is take this and put it into some kind of noise reduction software. Because I used an ISO of 1600, the noise is not going to be terrible, but if we can get rid of that, it's just going to improve the quality of the image. So I use a program called DxO Pure Raw, but there are other things available that you can use to take out the noise from your photographs. Photoshop has a good noise reduction piece of software built in. Now I would suggest taking the photographs in RAW because this just gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to editing. So once you've dropped your image into DxO Pure Raw, then you press Process Now. There are several options that I'm not really going to get into in this video. I just leave them as standard anyway, and then start processing that. It will go through a short process of taking the noise out, and what we'll do is we'll come back in a second when it's finished. That only took about an extra 30 seconds, but I've got DxO Pure Raw set up to automatically open the image into Photoshop once it's finished processing. So because it was taken in a RAW format, it's opened in Camera Raw. So this gives me quite a few options now to do some editing to the image before we open it finally in Photoshop. Despite using a head torch to illuminate the chapel in the foreground, it's still quite dark, but because there is some light there, I can lift the details using Camera Raw. And I'm going to use a linear gradient to lift the foreground, so I'm just going to gradually drag this over the bottom of the image, and then I'm going to lift the exposure. Now you can see that the chapel is now becoming lighter. Now you can just adjust this gradient as you see fit to get the amount of light that you want. I'm just making sure it's still fairly believable, and because my head torch was quite white, there's quite a bit of difference in colour balance between the colours in the sky and the colour of the church. So what I want to do is just lift the colour temperature of that as well, just to bring it a little bit more in line, and it feels a little bit warmer and a little bit more believable rather than being quite so harsh. The colour balance wasn't quite right before. What I'm also going to do is lift the shadow details using the shadow slider, because this brings out lots more detail there in the chapel at the front of the image, and I think that just makes it stand out so much more. Then finally, in the colour tab, I'm just going to push the vibrance ever so slightly. Now do be careful with this, you can go overboard because it's very tempting when you've got the Aurora just to make it look absolutely garish like that. I think that's far too far, but a little bit of vibrance does just help it pop a little bit more, and sometimes a bit of saturation can also help as well, but do be careful, you don't want to go too far, but just a little bit of saturation can just really make it pop. Then finally, once you're happy with the image, you can click open and launch it into Photoshop. The image is now into Photoshop, and in actual fact it doesn't need a great deal doing to it, but I'm going to mention two things. One is a preference that I actually chose not to do, and the other is something that I do with every image, and so I'll talk you through those. To start with, we're going to consider the converging verticals. Now whenever you're taking photographs of architecture, particularly if that thing's very tall, then the walls, as they go up into the air, will start to bend inwards, and these are known as converging verticals. Now in this particular image, I actually quite like them, and if you try and sort them out, as I've done here, then what happens is, as well as straightening the walls, it tends to squash the building and you lose some of the Aurora as well. And I just think that despite the converging verticals, I actually really like the look that I get from it. I don't mind the verticals at all. The second thing that I pretty much do to all of my images is run them through a third-party app called Luminar Neo. Now it really can make a massive difference to your image. Now I have got other videos going through all of the functions that you get from Luminar Neo, so I'm not going to go into every single thing that you can do to your image, but there are a few things that really do make it stand out. And the first thing is at the top of the list on the edit panel is just to add a little bit of enhancement. Now this brings out detail in the foreground and detail in the Aurora as well, and you can go too far. Don't need to go that far at all, we can just go about halfway, but I think that makes a massive difference. Now you can do things like enhancing the colour, but because we've already done that in Camera Raw, we don't need to go any further with that. But I quite often find a little bit of a vignette can also help just push the viewer's eye into the centre of the image. Don't go too far because you don't want to actually notice the vignette, that is way too far. But if you wind that back a little bit so the vignette is not actually noticeable, it actually subtly pushes the viewer's eye to the center of the image. Now you can do other things as well, like add structure or change the color balance or add different kinds of mood, but I'm quite happy with that now at the moment, and I'm going to click apply. So I'm going to call that image finished, and what I'll do now is I'll leave you with some of my favorite photographs that I took during the evening.